and we're beside each other, or I'm that little guy floating above his head, and I can feel the anticipation, I can feel the crowd, and I can feel his worry about not being able to speak, and I'm like, come on Scott, you can speak, I know you can speak, Scott, come on, you can do it. Hey, how are you doing? It's Alan here from Look for Warriors, and I want to talk about this book, Scott Adams, How to Fail at Almost Everything. How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. Now, I have a problem with this book. I have a real problem with this book, because when I'm reading a book, I do what Ed Dale taught me to do. I go through the book. And as I'm going through the book, I take in what's being said for sure, but I'm also looking for something. I'm looking for what's called wow facts. And what wow facts are the core of the book. So in this book here, Think and Grow Rich, it's really easy, because there's paragraphs here. I can mark this paragraph here. I mark this paragraph, and the real core of this chapter is, I know that negative attitude towards others cannot bring me success. That's the core of that whole chapter. And I could talk about that one line. I could talk about that one line in that chapter, and it's the core. Now, as I've read the whole chapter, other bits of the chapter come out as I talk about that one line. But that one line is the core. It's the well fact in that chapter. I know that negative attitude towards others cannot bring me success. What's basically saying is, what you're sending out, you're getting back in. If you want the best from people, you see them in the best light. If you want your kids to be great people, you see them as great people. If you want your boss to be a great person, you see him as a great person first. And then he's a great person, or she's a great person. If you want your wife to be great and to feel that connection with you, you see her like that before, you see like that first, and she becomes like that. That's what that chapter is saying. I know that negative attitude towards others cannot bring me success. But this, Scott Adams, if you ever see this, I know you're probably too busy to be watching this video, but Scott Adams, if you ever see this, you've caused me a huge problem. Because Scott Adams is smart. Now, he's very self-deprecating. He'll tell you that he's stupid. He'll tell you that he'll say every bad thing about himself. But he's super, super smart. And the book is just so much exciting, interesting, and really useful stuff in this book. Really useful stuff. It's great. And he's written it. Let me just talk about the writing for 2 seconds. The writing is incredible. It is like a Dilbert cartoon in a way. It's really simple language. This is great, because I'm not a huge reader. I'm listening to this on Audible first. So I'm listening on Audible. By the way, if you want to listen to this on Audible, Scott Adams himself doesn't read it. You know, he's got a great guy, a really, really great guy to read it for him. But I do know from listening to Scott Adams that he's going to read it himself soon. So you might want to wait a month and then download it. I think you'll actually get Scott Adams' voice. The guy who does it right now is brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. It almost sounds like Scott Adams saying it himself. But I do feel that when the author is reading his own book, it adds a little something to it. It just adds a little something to it. I don't know what it is, but for me it adds a little something to it. Some heart and soul to the book. To me, it adds a little bit of heart and soul to the book, that you feel that this guy who's saying this really believes what he's saying, because it's his words. So my suggestion, which you don't have to do, you can download it right now, but my suggestion is you wait till Scott Adams does the voiceover. What do you call it? Do you call it voiceover? Does the narration of the book, and download it then. But the guy who does it now is brilliant, so if you want to just download it right now, do that. So, my problem that Scott Adams has caused me is that this is full of incredible nuggets. But he hasn't taken, like, sometimes when you're sowing seeds, You can take a big bulb. Sometimes you can take a big bulb and you put it in the ground, and that grows. That's what most books are. But Scott Adams hasn't done that. He's taken 1,000 tiny little seeds and scattered them everywhere, all over the place. So every line of this book has an incredible little seed in it. But it's very, very hard to pick out one point that is the core of a chapter. Plus, the chapters are short. They're really, really short, which is brilliant. Brilliant for me. I could read this to my kids. My kids could read this. The language is that simple. It's not reading a Dilbert cartoon. Obviously, reading a Dilbert cartoon is a little bit easier, but it's in that vein. It's in that vein. The way he's written this is almost like a Dilbert cartoon. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more difficult than reading a Dilbert cartoon, but it's not a million miles away from it. It's really simple language. It's really easy to read, and it's really, really fun. Now, let's get into the core here, because what I want to talk about is the writing a little bit. I walked out on stage with Scott Adams. I walked out on stage with Scott Adams. Now, Scott Adams had a problem that his voice, some sort of medical issue. He had all kinds of medical issues. If you read this book, because I've read it before, and if you read this book, he had all kinds of medical issues that really affected exactly what he was trying to do. So it was writing, it was speaking, whatever. It was the most important thing for him to do. So medical issues affected that. So at the start of this book, he's talking about a medical issue that he had, that he wasn't able to speak. Now, speaking is something that is always been, I'd say, part of my skill set. Now, the reason I'm reading this, by the way, as well, is because I'm really fascinated by the skill stack. Skill stack. So I'm rereading this, and I want to do some videos on it because I'm really fascinated by the skill stack, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So in the middle of this book, he talks about the skill stack a little bit, which is really, really important. We all need to know about the skill stack. But part of my skill stack, or skill set, always has been the ability to speak. And I've never really had a problem with that. I think I had a little bit of a stutter when I was younger. I can't really remember now, but speaking has always been something that I'm pretty good at. So, but he takes you through his medical issue where he can't speak. And I'm reading this and I feel like I have the issue. That's how good the writing is. That's how good Scott Adams' writing is. As I'm reading about his medical issue where he can't speak, I begin to feel like I have the issue. And he wants to test it. He wants to test it. He wants to find out how serious this is. So he's going into shops and he's asking for gum, and he can't ask for gum, and you're going through this whole issue with him, and you're like, Jesus, you're walking into that shop with him. But the most exciting bit is towards the end. Not towards the end of the book, towards the end of the bit that I'm reading right now. And his writing, I walk up to the stage with Scott Adams, and the lighting guys switch the lights on, and the sound guys are setting up, and you can feel the excitement in the air, and the crowd is full of people who love the Dilbert comic, full of people who love the Dilbert comic, and they're exciting and anticipating, that feeling of anticipation in the crowd. I don't know if you ever stepped up from the crowd. I have small crowds, very, very small crowds, maybe bigger crowds in the future, but up to this point, smaller crowds, and just business things. And even with that small crowd of like 10 or 20 people, I'm assuming he's standing in front of thousands, but even in front of that small crowd of 10 or 20 people, you feel an energy from this person, from this whole crowd. You feel an energy, and you send back an energy to them, they send an energy to you. So I went to a Celine Dion, might have been Celine Dion, I don't know, it was a Celine Dion concert, and she interacted with the crowd, and the energy coming off her was incredible, and the crowd's energy, this was hundreds of thousands of people, the crowd's energy coming back to her was unbelievable. You could feel the tension, but also the excitement in the air. And as Scott Adams now is standing out, and the sound guys are preparing and the lighting guys are preparing, and he is telling the organisers that he can't speak right now. He's braver than me, because if I couldn't speak, I don't think I'd be getting on the stage to speak. But he's telling the organisers, I don't know if I can speak right now. And as he goes in, he speaks to the organisers, or he doesn't speak to the organisers more accurately. And he doesn't know when he stands out there. Now, it's a friendly audience. They love Dilbert. They probably don't know him. I know him more than I know Dilbert, but this crowd probably know Dilbert a lot more than they know him. But they're very excited to find out who the author of this Dilbert comic is, what kind of guy he is. So it's a very, very friendly audience. And again, we can feel the energy and the anticipation coming from the audience. And as he describes, in this book, he describes walking out onto that stage. And as he describes it, I am walking onto that stage with him. That's how good the writing is. I'm walking onto that stage with him. And we're beside each other. Or I'm that little guy floating above his head. And I can feel the anticipation. I can feel the crowd. And I can feel his worry about not being able to speak. And I'm like, come on, Scott, you can speak. I know you can speak. Scott, come on, you can do it. And I am on that stage with him. That's how good the writing in this book is. You feel like you're on that stage. And you can feel the anticipation of the crowd. And you can feel his nervousness. Can I say anything? Am I able to say anything here? That's how good Scott Adams' writing is. It's not even him reading it. I'm listening on Audible, but I'm also, I get the book. I mostly get the book. I want to read bits and pieces of it, but I also want to mark the book from what I call facts, or where the core of the message is. I want to mark the book, so I always get the book as well. Sometimes I get it on Kindle, but it just the physical paper, marking the physical paper, I think is really a bookmarking the physical paper. I think is a lot more physical. But you're on that stage with him. And can he speak? Can he not speak? Is he able to talk? It's a mostly memorized speech of something that he knows well. And is he going to be able to talk? Get the book. Get the book to find out if he can talk or not. This has been Alan here from Looking for Warriors, talking about Scott Adams, how to fail at almost everything and still win big. Kind of the story of my life.